Hi, I'm Zuna, and I'm from Slovakia, and I wish the world will be more in peace. I like nature, and I wish that all of you will be nice together, not like fighting, but good together, because then it's more good world, and I like that. So please be kind, and bye.
Hi, I'm Arthur from England. I pray for everybody to look after the planet and just care about each other and make friends. And just when I feel really free and I feel empty out of myself, I feel empty and then I feel so free in myself.
अમને વિશ્વ શાંતિ જોઈએ છે.
The deeper you go, the more you find yourself empty. Ultimately, you find yourself just as zero. And that is the point of enlightenment. Your ego has disappeared, your greed has far away disappeared. You have disappeared. There is only light, life, infinite, eternal. But you are not there as a person, but just a pure consciousness.
Attention!
Attention!
Can I have your attention, please?
It's urgent!
Urgent! It's urgent!
This is
An urgent message
from your children.
I feel really scared.
The environment is kind of just getting torn apart.
There's pollution, global warming, and people are just not caring about it.
Nature is getting destroyed. I mean, there's a bunch of logging, there's water pollution, there's air pollution.
I'm really concerned about fracking because then we'll have no good water to drink.
Pipelines with gas inside, they can also explode.
And some people are throwing garbage in the ocean that makes the ocean polluted. So animals are also getting sick and can die out there. If animals are getting extinct, one day we're gonna get extinct if you don't stop.
This makes me feel mad.
It makes me feel upset.
I think it's terrible.
I feel ashamed because so far very few people are doing something about it.
We will be sad because we don't have anywhere else to live.
I'm worried that this generation will be ruined and there will be nothing left for the next generation.
If this keeps going, well, the whole world is really gonna collapse.
Just give me a minute, please.
If we don't stop this, it will lead to a global disaster or even the destruction of Earth. If we destroy all of this, then we'll have no other planet to live on.
People act like it's nothing and it won't affect them, but soon it will.
Sometime in the future, I may be dead, I may not. It's going to affect us all in some horrible way. And so if we do something now, then maybe we can stop that from happening.
I would want to do something about it, though the people who really have that power don't really care.
It's not like there's an unstoppable force doing this to us. We can choose not to, do this to the planet and the environment.
I want to live in a world where children can look out the window and not see a sea of sadness, but somewhere where things thrive.
We're probably gonna have to, evolve.
Hey kids!
Hey kids,
Wanna help us get the word out?
Will you join us?
go to weyourchildren.org
WeYourChildren.org.
And upload your own video.
Upload your own video. Add your voice.
Tell your adults how you feel.
Tell your adults how you feel.
Tell your adults how you feel.
And tell your friends to join us too.
If we can get 1 million kids
A million kids!
to add their voice,
Then grown-ups will have to listen.
The grown-ups will have to listen.
Go to WeYourChildren.org.
weyourchildren.org.
We are your children.
We are your children.
precious in my mother's womb. On one side, I wanted to express myself as a human being. Yet, on the other side, I didn't, because I felt I was spirit.
Yogananda happens to be what I would call a spiritual prodigy.
Steve Jobs apparently had only one book on his iPad, The Autobiography of a Yogi.
The LA Times called him the first superstar guru of the 20th century.
Through this body, many shall receive the spiritual enlightenment of India.
God is taking me away to America.
Yogananda arrives in Los Angeles, and on the first night, over 6,000 people attend his talk.
Yogananda came and brought us a truth, a universal truth that no one can escape.
Here is a small brown mystic from a nation that very few Americans had ever been to, and he is here delivering his message with such force that he's making converts by the thousands. He was put on a government watch list and kept under surveillance. There was literally a war against yoga being waged in the media.
I am going through the severest trial of my life.
Yoga has become something that you do with your body, but it's really about the mind. Yogananda said that there was a secret link between the body and the spirit.
The technique of meditation, recharging the body battery with cosmic energy, for it is not a creed or dogma, but the science of the soul and spirit.
If I hadn't read that, I'd just be, some horrible person.
While he was writing the autobiography, we set off the first atomic bomb.
The need for the teachings was more urgent than ever.
He always said, the man who can reform himself can reform the world.
The physical world is not the highest reality. There's something beyond that we can partake of.
പ്രേമസ്വരൂകളാത്മസ്വരൂകളായിരിക്കുന്ന എല്ലാവർക്കും നമസ്കാരം. പ്രകൃതിയുടെ താളം മനുഷ്യനെ ആശ്രയിച്ചിരിക്കുന്നു. മനസ്സിൻ്റെയും ശരീരത്തിൻ്റെയും ആരോഗ്യത്തിനും ആയുസ്സിനും മനുഷ്യനും പ്രകൃതിയും ഈ താളം നിലനിർത്തേണ്ട ആവശ്യമാണ്. നമ്മുടെ ഈ അത്യാഗ്രഹം അല്ലെങ്കിൽ ഈ ദുരാഗ്രഹം, ഈ ദുസ്വഭാവത്തിന് മാറ്റം വരുത്താൻ നമ്മളുടെ ആത്മാർത്ഥമായ ആഗ്രഹം ആദ്യം ഉണ്ടാകും. എങ്കിലേ ലോകത്തിലും മാറ്റം വരും. എന്നാൽ നമ്മൾ മിക്കപ്പോഴും തിന്മകളെ അതിക്രമിക്കുന്നതിന് പകരം മനസ്സാക്ഷിയുടെ ശബ്ദം കേൾക്കാതിരിക്കാനാണ് നമ്മൾ ശ്രമിക്കുന്നത്. അതുകൊണ്ടാണ് അമ്മ എപ്പോഴും പറയുന്നത്, ഈ ലോകത്തെ ഒരു മരുഭൂമിയാക്കി മാറ്റരുതേ, സ്നേഹവും കാരുണ്യവും പറ്റിപ്പോകാൻ നമ്മൾ അനുവദിക്കരുത്. അങ്ങനെ സംഭവിച്ചാൽ പിന്നെ ഇവിടെ മനുഷ്യനുണ്ടാകില്ല. മനോഹരമായ ലോകം മനുഷ്യമൃഗങ്ങൾ നിറഞ്ഞ കാടായി മാറും. നമുക്കെല്ലാം അറിവുണ്ട് ഇതൊക്കെ ഇങ്ങനെയാണ്, പക്ഷെ ബോധമില്ല. അതുകൊണ്ട് അമ്മ പറയാം, അറിവുണ്ട് ബോധമില്ല, ഇവരുണ്ട് വിവേകമില്ല. നമ്മുടെയൊക്കെ ബുദ്ധി വളരുന്നു, പക്ഷേ ഹൃദയം വരളാണ്. അപ്പോൾ അങ്ങനെ പോവാണ്. അതുകൊണ്ട് അമ്മ പറയും, ഈശ്വര ശക്തിയെ മടികൂടാതെ നമ്മൾ കൂട്ടുപിടിക്കണമെന്ന് പറയാൻ കാണും. ആ ഈശ്വരശക്തിയെ മടികൂടാതെ കൂട്ടുപിടിക്കണമെന്ന് പറയുന്നത് നമ്മൾ അഹങ്കാരമില്ലാത്ത പ്രയത്നത്തെ കൊണ്ടുവരാൻ. ഈശ്വരൻ സർവ്വവ്യാപിയാണ്, എല്ലാത്തിലും കുടികൊള്ളുന്നു. ധർമ്മത്തിൻ്റെ പ്രതീകം, സത്യത്തിൻ്റെ പ്രതീകം, ദാനത്തിൻ്റെ പ്രതീകം, സ്നേഹത്തിൻ്റെ പ്രതീകം, പ്രകാശത്തിൻ്റെ പ്രതീകം, ജ്ഞാനത്തിൻ്റെ പ്രതീകം, അങ്ങനെയുള്ള ഒരു തത്വമാണ്. അപ്പോൾ ഈശ്വര വിശ്വാസത്തിൽ നിന്ന് നമുക്ക് ധർമ്മത്തെ കൊണ്ടുവരാൻ പറ്റും. ധർമ്മമാണല്ലോ താളലയം സൃഷ്ടിക്കുന്നത്. പ്രാർത്ഥനയിലൂടെ സ്നേഹത്തിൻ്റെ വിത്താണ് നമ്മുടെ വിതയ്ക്കുന്നത്. കുറേ വെള്ളത്തുള്ളികൾ ചേരുമ്പോഴാണ് ഒരു നദിയാകുന്നത്. അതിന് സമുദ്രങ്ങളുണ്ടായി. സമുദ്രമായതും നദിയായതും ഒക്കെ കുറേ വെള്ളത്തുള്ളികൾ ചേർന്നാണ്. ഒരു സീറോ ബൾബിന് മുമ്പിൽ ഇന്ന് പഠിക്കാൻ പറ്റില്ല, പക്ഷെ അനേക സീറോ ബൾബുകൾ വരുമ്പോൾ നമുക്ക് പഠിക്കാൻ പറ്റും. കൂട്ടായ്മ ഒരാൾ ചെയ്യുമ്പോൾ അടുത്താൾ അങ്ങനെ ഒരു മാറ്റം ഉണ്ടാകും. അതുകൊണ്ട് ഒറ്റപ്പെട്ട ദ്വീപല്ല, നമ്മളൊരു ശൃംഖലയുടെ കണ്ണിയാണ്. അവർ മാറി നമ്മൾ മാറാനാണ് കണ്ടെങ്കിൽ അവർ മാറിയില്ലെങ്കിലും നമ്മൾ മാറിയാൽ അവരിൽ മാറ്റം ഉണ്ടാക്കാമെന്ന് പറയുന്ന അതാണ്. പ്രാർത്ഥനയിലൂടെ സ്നേഹത്തിൻ്റെ വിത്താണ് നമ്മൾ വിതയ്ക്കുന്നത്. സ്നേഹമുണ്ടെങ്കിൽ നമ്മുടെ കയ്യിലുള്ള ഒരു റൊട്ടി രണ്ടും പരസ്പരം പങ്കുവെച്ചില്ലേ കഴിക്കും. അതുപോലെ മറ്റുള്ളവർ നമ്മൾ ചിന്തിക്കുകയല്ല, കഴിക്കും. ഒരു മരുഭൂമിയിൽ ഒരു പുഷ്പം വളർന്ന അത്രയും ഭംഗിയുണ്ടല്ല, ഒരു വൃക്ഷം നിന്ന് അത്രയും തണല് കിട്ടത്തില്ലേ. പ്രാർത്ഥന സ്നേഹമാണ്. സ്നേഹത്തിന് ശുദ്ധമായ തരംഗമാണ് അതിലൂടെ ലോകവും പരക്കുന്നത്. താമര സൂര്യപ്രകാശം കൊണ്ട് വിരിയുന്നുണ്ട്. ആമ്പലെന്ന് പറയും, അല്ലി എന്നും പറയും. സൂര്യപ്രകാശം ചന്ദ്രനിൽ തട്ടിയിട്ട് വരുമ്പോൾ ആ ചന്ദ്രപ്രകാശം കൊണ്ടാണ് ആമ്പൽപ്പൂ വിരിയുന്നത്. താഴമ്പൂ അങ്ങനെയല്ല, അത് ഇടിവെട്ടിയാലേ വിരിയുള്ളൂ. ഇടിവെട്ടിയാലേ നമ്മൾ താഴമ്പൂവിന് വിരിയത്തുള്ളെന്ന് പറഞ്ഞ പോലെ ഇനിയും ദുരന്തങ്ങളുണ്ടാകാൻ കാത്തു നിൽക്കാതെ നമ്മൾ ഉണരണം. ഇപ്പം നഷ്ടപ്പെട്ട ഓർത്ത് വിലപിച്ച് നമ്മുടെ ജീവിതം നഷ്ടപ്പെടുത്താതെ നമ്മളുള്ള ഈ രത്നം എന്നുവെച്ചാൽ ഈ നിമിഷം, ഈ രത്നം എന്ന് പറഞ്ഞാൽ ഈ നിമിഷമാണ്. ഈ നിമിഷത്തെ വിവേകത്തോടും നമ്മൾ നീങ്ങിയാൽ നമ്മൾ തീർച്ചയായിട്ടും സന്തോഷവും ഐശ്വര്യവും സമൃദ്ധിയും നമുക്ക് കൊണ്ടുവരാൻ സാധിക്കും.
Gunulchish di kian kawu, gunulchish hashagenya, gunulchish hashuka yayagi. Wa eaksati ikat tu khatang. I thank the Creator, I thank the Great Spirit, and I thank our ancestors for this day. We put our trust in you. Linoksin yuchat du asak. Gishbuwada ayachat. Kiksadi yadi chatsati. Sit querida chkank. Ashlich. Yesheri klan nanyaish takin kwanayachat. My name is Sweetwater Nanak. I'm from the Kilauea clan of the Tsimshian Nation from Alaska. My father is from the Raven Frog clan of the Tlingit Nation. I am the grandchild of the Glacier People clan. My great-grandmother, Yesheri Kla, was the precious grandchild of the Upper Living People clan from the Stikine River in Alaska. To honor to be here today and standing united with one body, one mind, one spirit, for peace, for us and the 7 generations. So all around the world, everyone is coming together for prayer for peace with Native people. You know, we have peace within ourselves, peace with Mother Earth, with each other, and focus on healing. A lot of work I do is about healing historical trauma and what that trauma that was passed on, because we believe not only is the trauma that is passed on, but ways of healing. Our original instructions that our ancestors have is ways for our healing, that our culture is medicine for us. And so I want to share with you a story that I share. I'm a traditional storyteller, dancer, singer, a traditional healer. And when I used to do storytelling with youth in Seattle, I tell them this story that comes from my people. Hundreds of years ago, the Tsimshian people from Canada came up to Alaska. The Kilauea clan, of which my mother is from, came to fight with my father's clan, their people, which they use a crest, the Kilauea crest also. It's kind of like who's the baddest Kilauea on the block kind of thing. In a traditional way, they came to fight us. And so they fought out on what's now called Dal Island. And there, our Tlingit people, we defeated them and captured their chiefs. There was 5 of them. And so many years, long ago, when we got tired of fighting with our enemies or wanting for this wars to become to an end, we would have a peace ceremony. And so we had a ceremony in which those ceremonies, we would exchange 4 young men, which they called guacan, they were deer, because deer are docile animals. And so we exchanged 4 men, and those 4 men would come into our enemy's home, and they would tie their dominant hand behind their back. And so those enemies, their family, would take care of those deer. They would feed them, bathe them, take care of all their needs while they were there, while they're preparing for the ceremony. And so during that ceremony, when they're ready, they would bring them out and exchange them. But before they do that, they, when we were at war, they would keep track of all the people they had killed on each side. Sometimes they would notch it on a stick. Sometimes they would have a bag and keep pebbles in it to count how many were killed on each side. And so during the ceremony, they would take turns sharing what the other had done to harm them, how many people were killed, and then pay indemnity to them. And so that's what we did. And so we would gift them in how many people we had killed of our enemy. And because the Tsimshian came from Canada, they had not many resources with them. And so where we were in our home place, we had many gifts to offer them. So in exchange, instead they gave us their stories, their names. And so this killer whale clan, they gave a name to my family. It was We Shakes, and it means splasher, a killer whale name. The Tlingit people, we have a tradition of shortening names, nicknames, you may call them. And so they shortened that name to Shakes. And so that name was passed on down my family line. We're at Chief Shakes, the 8th now. And that's where the name came from. So I share this story with youth when I talk to schools and ask them, how many of your relatives have been in the military? Your dads, your uncles, your grandfathers. Most of the kids raise their hand. And I say, can you imagine bringing an enemy into your home and taking care of them, treating them with kindness and respect and love, compassion, and fulfilling this peace ceremony? And most of the kids, they just can't imagine something like that happening. I say, these people may have killed your uncle, your brother, your grandfather. And so this was our ways of healing and making peace. We have stories about this too with another Tlingits from Sitka, the Kagwantan clan. And by then we had a peacemaking treaty in 1918 with them. And so I think, this is some of our original instructions, our teachings we could share with the world in learning how to make peace. And the other thing I've learned from this too is knowing who you are and where you came from, what happened to your ancestors. Because this story I'm talking and sharing about, it was a few hundred years ago also with the Kagwantan in Sitka, Shiadaka, what our people called it. They had a potlatch there one day and invited people from all over. Our people came from the Stikine, from Wrangell. And when they were there for this potlatch, when it was over, there was someone from our village stole somebody else's wife. And she ran off with him when they were leaving. And so her husband's clan came after them and attacked them and killed them. But because of that battle, they killed more. And so in our culture, it was more like an eye for an eye, a tooth for a tooth. Like I was saying, how we kept tracked by the stones and the sticks. And so our people, like, well, you killed this many of our people, now we have to come back and kill them. And so this went back and forth until finally they offered to have a peace ceremony. But there are people from the Stikine on their way up to Shiadaka. They stopped in Kishkwan because they have alliance and allies there in our village. And one of the medicine people told them, don't go up there, and warned our people, or they're going to kill you. And so my people and family, we turned back and went back to the Shtakim, but there was still a group that went on up to Shiataka. And when you go to a peace ceremony, you don't bring your weapons in with you into the house. And so they didn't, and when they got there, they ambushed them and killed them all. And this was just before contact with white people. And by the time they came, they outlawed our ceremonies and ways to make, every potlatch and our tradition, our language, our ways, and our cultures. And so they couldn't have a traditional peace ceremony after that. But one of my ancestors, Tilly Paul, she went to school there. It was called Sheldon Jackson. She became an interpreter and a teacher. And she was gifted from that clan a beautiful handmade buckskin dress, and that was their way of making peace with us, since we couldn't have the ceremony. And so years later, many generations later, I'm living in Seattle now, and I worked for a famous artist, Tlingit artist, and he's from that same clan, the Kagwantam from Shiataka. And we help each other in our work. I have another friend too, because I was in a traditional Tlingit dance group in Seattle. And there's a song, it's called Here Comes the Killiwhales. We use it as an entrance song when we come into the dancing into the ceremony. And so us from the Killiwhale clan and the Kagwantan also use the Killiwhale as a crest. And so we would be all up front. And there were 3 generations, the mom, my friend, and her daughters. And then there were me. And so they adopted me like family. And everywhere, whenever we were together, we came in dancing together. But I stayed with them sometimes. I go visit with them, and I talk to her mom. And I'd always bring our traditional food to share with them. And she would talk and share stories with me and treat me like her daughter. And so this is, I guess, how it may have changed and evolved, that if you know who you are and where you come from. And that's why I share, in our culture, we believe that when we die, we come back to our same family or clan. And so I am my ancestor, as are they. And we've made the peace, and we love each other and care for each other. And only that love can cancel out that hatred and murder and dying that happened long ago. So I encourage people, think about what you're doing here today. Ask your family stories. Where did you come from? Have you harmed other people? Have your ancestors harmed other people? And that there's ways we can make peace today. So be a good ancestor and remember these and learn your own stories and teachings and original instructions. So a lot of this is what I share in the work I do, teaching about decolonization, about the history of colonization, the historical trauma, because that's what it was. It is what we now call today historical trauma that was passed on, that we're here to heal. And so you can find me on Idle No More Washington on Facebook, and I invite you to participate in some of these workshops about healing. So Gunafchish, thank you for listening to my words.
Jimmy, are you there?
Yes,
Hey,
I
now we
am.
got you. Oh, perfect. We made it happen. Hey, man. How's it
Hey,
going?
it's going good.
Oh, good, man. Thanks so much for your patience. We're on live here and out of Vancouver and on the World Peace broadcast. Man, it's good to see your face. How are you?
Thank you. It is great to be seen and great to see you as well, and to be present with so many people from around the world on this amazing peace weekend.
Where are you physically located?
I'm in Portland, Oregon right now. I just returned from a tour of Europe. I was walking the Camino of St. Francis, which was 110 miles through the mountains of Tuscany and Umbria, and spent some time in Paris. But now I'm back here in Portland before heading back to where I live in Mexico.
Oops, I was saying, what mission are you on now? Like, what are you up to these days?
Well, you know, it's a good question. I think in my life, it's just connecting the dots and seeing where peace leads me and us. I know on almost every peace mission that I've been on, they pop up spontaneously. And within a week or two, I could be in Baghdad or Syria or some other strange place. I know the next peace journey is going to be next month, when I'm traveling with a group of people to do a concert on the DMZ between North Korea and South Korea. So I'm very excited about that. And then we'll just see where spirit leads.
Well, I wanted to share a little bit about a journey that we had together that was unexpected. But before that, I wanted to acquaint people with your work. A lot of people here on this broadcast actually are familiar with your work, but for those that aren't, there was a book that was written called, was it Emissaries or Emissary of Light? Emissary of Light, right?
Yeah, Emissary of Light was my first book, correct.
That was a book that changed my life. It was like one of those pivotal books in my life. You know, when Spirit speaks to you and gives you a message about what your life is maybe perhaps going to be about. That book was, with maybe two others, a definitive turning point in my life.
Wow, what an honor! Thank you,
brother.
Just
thank
out of
you.
curiosity,
Thank you
what were the other two?
Well, one of them was Conversations with God. Actually, was one of them, and another one of them was Initiation. Did you ever read that?
Oh,
Elizabeth
yeah,
Knight?
I've not read it, but I know the book.
Jimmy, read it. It's if you for anybody else out there, like warning you now, it brings back all your memories of Egypt, all the good ones. And so, but Emissary of Light in particular was my. Would you share a little bit about the journey at the front lines of Bosnia and what happened there?
Sure. Well, to back up a little bit to kind of set the stage, you know, we all have these pivotal moments in our lives when all of the tumblers fall into place. And for me, that happened just about 25 years ago. In a few months, it'll be 25 years that a friend of mine gave me a sheet of paper that had on it the peace prayers from the 12 major religions of the world. You know, you don't stop and think about that often because we think of the differences between different religions. But the truth is, we're all really focused on peace, and every religion has a peace prayer. And a friend of mine gave me this sheet, and as I read each one, beginning with the Hindu prayer, then the Buddhist prayer, I began to hear music, and I just picked up my guitar and began to play along. And within 1 hour, I had put all 12 of the prayers to music, and people were calling me the peace troubadour. And I wanted to go to where peace was needed. And back in 1995, that was in Bosnia and Croatia. And so I basically got myself invited to come to that region during the war to share the peace prayers and to be doing the peace concert in refugee camps and churches and schools and as many places as I could. And while I was there, I was told about a group of mystics who were called the Emissaries of Light, who were in the mountains between Bosnia and Croatia. And they had a very unique and important mission. They would come together every night at midnight, and they would meditate for 12 hours without moving. They would be around this major, huge 12-spoked wheel, one in the center and 12 around. and they would meditate there for 12 hours every night, and what they call the extension of divine light. And I was able to be with them for several days, and they had a message to share with the world, and the message can really just be summed up in a few words. They said, just go out and tell people you're ready. You're ready for this. Whatever it is you've been envisioning, whatever this world is that you're manifesting, you're ready. And you can't do anything until you accept your readiness. And until then, you're constantly trying to get ready. You're always trying to read another book or take another workshop, thinking one day I'll be ready. And the emissary simply said, you are ready right now. And to me, that was one of the most empowering messages I've ever heard. So I wrote the book about that whole adventure. And then that led to many other experiences. A short while later, I was invited by Saddam Hussein to come to Iraq at a time when war seemed imminent again. And that was the first time that we called people together to focus their prayers of peace on that situation. This was in 1998. And it was amazing because no one had ever really done that before. And it really captured the attention of millions of people, just as you're doing here this weekend. And all I can say is that before that vigil happened, there didn't seem to be any possibility of a peaceful solution, but something shifted. I was there in Baghdad with the Iraqis doing this concert, and something shifted. We could feel the reality of peace manifesting, and at least at that time, no bombs fell, no one died. And we began to repeat this experiment over and over in many other situations. So that's kind of how it all got started. And it all culminates in amazing prayer vigils like the one that's happening here in UNIFY this weekend.
James, thank you so much for your work, for your courage. And just, you're one of the greatest unifiers that I've met. Your ability to bring together religious and spiritual leaders and people from so many different faiths to join you. What you're doing is timely, it's universal, and you're right. We are ready. We're absolutely ready. The world is ready for this now. And maybe we weren't 10 or 20 years ago, but we are now. I wanted to share, how I came across your work again was it was a very serendipitous and amazing experience. A dear friend of mine and former business partner, Mickey Willis, called me and says, "Hey, Adil, are you watching the news right now?" I said, "No, dude, I don't have a TV. I'm not really watching the news." He's like, "Hey, Jimmy Twyman's on TV," and he goes, "Do you remember Jimmy Twyman?" I'm like, "Yeah, have you liked Jimmy Twyman?" He's like, "Yeah, he's on TV right now." I'm like, "What? Okay, and what's going on?" And he's like, "They're just taking him to town, because he's basically on the air saying that he's going to go to the front lines of ISIS and bring songs of peace and messages of love, and he's calling forth for a global meditation." I was like, "What, really? Like, is this?" He's like, and they're giving him a real hard time, and I'm like,
"Yeah."
And so I'm like, "Get me on the phone with him." And so we got on the phone with you, and I'm like, "Are you really doing this?" Like, and he's like, "And Jimmy, you were like, yeah, I'm gonna go to the front lines, and I'm gonna bring my songs of peace, and gonna meditate on the front lines." And what they were stating at that time was, this man's crazy. He's gonna be killed. Now, I knew in my heart that with all the miraculous things that had happened in your life, they didn't know what they were talking about. They didn't know what they're getting themselves into. And
I remember one of those people was Bill Maher. He called me the idiot folk singer from Portland, which I thought was pretty great.
Right? And so I didn't know what was going to happen. I was like, "James, are you sure you want to do this?" Like, and he said, "I'm going to do it. I'm like, "You're literally sacrificing your life for peace." And you were quiet about it. And I said, "When is your global meditation?" And you said, I think it was like you said, was it February 5th? Was that right? February 5th? It was in early February. Yeah, it was early February. My birthday was February 3rd, so I remember it was right around that time. It was like a big sign for me from Source. And you said, I'm going to do this. I'm going to go there. you're like, will you support us? Will UNIFY support us? And in my heart, I was like, well, I think what I said, I was like, James, to actually do a global meditation like what we're doing now takes like 2 months of planning and a month of actually media production and a team ramping up. And it's like no small orchestration to get,
sometimes,
thousands of events around the world. I was like, I don't think we can do this. I'm not sure we can pull this off in time. Because it was literally days from the time that you were leaving. And then I felt your sincerity in your heart, and I just felt the light of what you were doing. And I'm like, we have to do this. This is what we're here to do. Like, we got, our audience will get it. They, it's all over the news. Like, people, just let's give them the opportunity to at least hear the message. And so I called Mickey. I'm like, me and Mickey, we had created for years together. So I knew what he was capable of, and he knew what I was capable of. I'm like, Mick, let's slip a video together. Let's see if we can pull it off. And he's like, in what, 24 hours? I'm like, yeah, let's do it. Let's just do it. Let's see if we can pull it together. And he's like, oh, Ideal, I don't know. I'm in the middle of a shoot right now. And I'm like, I know, man, I'm in the middle of stuff right now, but brother's going to go on the front lines. We should, like, come on, we should do it. We should do it. It's the right thing to do. And he's like, it is the right thing to do. He's like, all right, let's just do it. And we talked down. Anyways, we produced a video in 24 hours, and we didn't know what would really happen, whether it was going to help anybody or actually if people would hear the message. But it went viral. It went completely viral in our network, and many millions of people watched the video and decided to join. I want to maybe show the video. I don't know if you've. I haven't seen it for a while, so
it's been a while for me too.
Yeah, let's and then like what I'd like to do is maybe have you share, like, from this video, from us not knowing what actually did happen once you're on the ground, because I think it's a pretty amazing miracle. You guys are gonna. We never share the story because it's so unbelievable that we're like, people are gonna think we're crazy if we tell everybody. But what do we have to lose? It's awesome. It's really, the more I've contemplated, the more I thought that this was such a gift from Spirit. Really to see what's actually possible. So, without any further ado, like Josh, could you guys cue up the video? I want them to see this. Let's take a look at it.
If it's true that groups like ISIS emerged from the soil of war, then perhaps we should explore new ways to fight terrorism. What would happen if a man walked into a Syrian village within sight of ISIS, took out a guitar, and began singing prayers of peace? What would happen if leaders from the 3 Abrahamic religions, Jewish, Christian, and Muslim, stood shoulder to shoulder with that musician, meditating for peace in war-torn Syria? What would happen if millions of people just like you stopped at the exact moment this gathering takes place and sent their loving thoughts and prayers to all those that are suffering? On February 1st, just days from now, you can be part of one of the most significant global meditations in history. I'm James Twyman, and I'm going to be collaborating with UNIFY.org and the Abrahamic Reunion to conduct a global experiment in peacemaking. On February 1st, I will actually step into a Syrian village just within sight of ISIS, where I'll perform prayers of peace alongside leaders from Christianity, Judaism, and Islam. Our vision is that you and millions of others join me for a worldwide synchronized meditation. A multitude of studies have proven that when large numbers of people focus positive intentions on a singular crisis, a measurable shift occurs. So please take just 10 minutes out of your day on February 1st to meditate for the children and victims of war in Syria. There's no way to know how this will go or if it will even work, but with all the suffering that's happening right now in the world, isn't this worth a try? For safety reasons, we're not going to release the exact location or the time of the meditation until just one day before, but if you register your email right now, on January 31st, we'll send you all the information you'll need so that you can participate. Just go to worldpeacepulse.com right now. Please dedicate just 10 minutes of your time on February 1st. Join me and millions of others as we shine our collective light on Syria and even ISIS, all in the name of peace.
Jimmy, that brings back so many memories. Totally. So yeah, it you know, I remember right after the video, we were, you know, on our social media, the social media team, I remember I think it was Jacob and Mark Healy, and it's amazing team that we have here, was like, Adil, this is going viral. It's catching fire. I'm like, it is, right? I'm like, wow, okay. Now what? I wonder what's going to happen. It was like, we just really didn't know. Like, is Jimmy going to die on the front lines? And on the contrary, you were like, look, now I want you to call out Abrahamic religious leaders, you know, and we had a whole team. We had done something in Jerusalem on December 21st, 2012. And the Jerusalem Peacemakers, Harmony in the Holy Land, all these different groups, Eliyahu McLean and Ali Zahava, and it's just a beautiful, beautiful group of souls that really helped pull that event together. And we reached out to them and said, hey, James is going to go do this. He's for real. The message has caught fire. We got to support him. Can we get as many religious and spiritual leaders? Can you reach out to the Christian leaders and the Jewish leaders and the Muslim leaders and the Hindu leaders and as many leaders as you can, like to you know, to support him? And I believe, and I know you were doing the same thing, and I think it was 80 religious leaders, was it, that ended up coming with you?
There were about 80 people who came with us, and then of course there were Muslims and Israelis and Christians. We had a small group of about 8 people who came with me, and it was a very fluid situation. We weren't really sure exactly how we were going to do this or where we were going to enter until the last minute. And I had explored many possibilities, going in through Turkey, for example, and going in through the Kurdish area. What we ended up settling upon for safety reasons is to go up into the Golan Heights. Now, Golan Heights is an area controlled, and there's a hill there where you can actually look down into a village that is held by ISIS. And so that's what we chose, because the leaders from the different religions, they're not as crazy as I am. So they weren't willing just to walk into the village. And I would have done that if it had felt right in the moment. But it felt right to do it this way, because we had this large group and we took 2 buses from Jerusalem up into the Golan Heights. And when we arrived at this hill, we looked down upon this village, and the war was literally going on. The guns were blazing. You could hear the fighting. And we were, I don't know how far away we were, but we were looking right down into the village. And something very interesting happened. Actually, there are 2 things that I'll tell you about. First of all, once we got ourselves all organized and settled, we began that period of meditation when we knew that there would be millions of people around the world who would be joining us. And so everyone there on the hill, we sat down and we joined the meditation. And as we began the meditation, the fighting stopped. There was not a single gun that went off. As if suddenly this cloud of peaceful energy just drifted over the whole village. And for that period of time, there was not a single gun firing or a single tank or a single bomb. And I was watching my clock for that 15 minutes to be up. Now, I should say that someone had told us earlier that they had, a few years earlier, reintroduced wolves to this area. I didn't think much of it, but when the vigil was over, I was getting ready to begin an Om to signal that the meditation was over. And I had literally taken a breath to begin the Om when suddenly a wolf began to howl. And I don't know, it must have been 100, 200 feet away from us. It was just right down below us. It was so close. And then 2 wolves, and then 5 wolves, and then within seconds, a whole pack of wolves howled for exactly 1 minute and then stopped. And to me, that was the sign that something had happened, something had shifted. Now, of course, we're still we're still focusing on Syria and that tragedy that's going on there. But the thing I can tell you is that 3 days after that vigil happened, against all expectations, a peace gathering, or a ceasefire rather, was negotiated in Munich. And the different leaders from the different countries came together, and at least for that period, there was no battle, there was no war. It did not hold. And so that shows the importance of us maintaining this energy, not just once in a while when a call goes out, but for each one of us to realize our important role in being instruments of peace. And that can happen in very subtle, very ordinary ways. It happens in the way that we treat each other. It happens the way that we love each other in the moment. So it was a miracle, and I could go on all day about other vigils and other miracles, but that just gives us one example of the power of this.
James, I really want to show everybody this video of the actual live footage, or some of the footage from the experience that you did. And I'm really grateful that you produced this before the next segment comes on. Would you be okay with us maybe patching to the video now and sharing?
Absolutely, yeah.
Yeah, let's watch it together.
Yeah, there's nothing like actually seeing it happen.
Okay, cool. I've never seen this before, so I'm really excited.
Good. All right.
Go ahead, Josh.
Your law is my
Good job.
command. Where would I go? What would I do?
We just arrived here at the overlook where we can see the Syrian villages in the distance that are held by ISIS. And there's a very large group of us that are here anchoring the energy and the prayers of people from all over the world. We can almost feel as if it's beginning to rain these prayers of peace as the synchronized world meditation is about ready to begin.
מוסא, תביא את האנשים שלך, תביא את כל המשתתפים, לזה הגענו. Musa, we're overlooking Hezbollah and Syrian army-held village and rebel-held villages, Al-Nusra Front, ISIS-affiliated villages. The people of Syria are suffering. We're going to be doing prayers together now from the three Abrahamic religions.
لاجئين في سوريا، في الأردن، في لبنان، وفي أوروبا بسبب الاحتلال، بسبب كل المصائب التي تكون في هذه البلاد.
Peace to all the nations, peace to everyone, let there be peace.
Shalom, salam, hu, hu. Shalom, salam, hu, hu. Shalom, salam, hu.
This world is talking about and very fearful of extremism. The extremists today are getting all the news, but we're being called to be extremists today as well. We're being called to be extremists in love.
It is the power that contains all power. It is the power, the result of which is peace. We can't bring peace through anger or through fear. We bring peace through love.
It is now 5 o'clock, and there are millions of people around the world who are focusing in on this moment and this spot with all of you. So we're going to ask that everyone now, wherever you want to sit, right in this general area by the peace pole overlooking Syria, we're going to go into 15 minutes of silence, holding the peace, welcoming the peace, feeling that peace prevails right now in this moment for the people of Syria and all through the world.
What would God say through you when your words do not matter? What would love clearly do when your mind forgets the chatter of words that you say but don't really mean the price you pay when love remains unseen. What would God say through you if you opened up your heart? What would God say through you if you opened up your heart?
You know, when I hear that the language that Charles Fillmore used in the 12 Powers, it's not a common modern language. And one example would just even be the power generative life. It strikes me as odd, but I remember something that you said to me once, that it's really about eternal life, and it's the step into eternity. Can you talk to me more about that?
Well, yes, I think that regenerative life is it's one of the latter powers, you know, and it carries this process up to another dimension, because there is always more to life, because life is eternal. There are no limits to it whatsoever, and that's the ultimate power that is necessary, is to recognize that this is something will be going on. It's not something that we're doing in order to correct the past, it's about being these powers forever.
The power of life is the power of God energy moving in us and through us and as us.
Life is my ability to vitalize or energize anything. And one of the important things that Fillmore said about the power of life is, it is the power that activates and energizes all the other powers. So it's the energizer bunny that doesn't get to the level of the passion of zeal.
The origin of the word heaven is expansion, and life is really about expanding. It's about expanding our faith, it's about expanding our love, it's about expanding our minds, our creativity, and our consciousness. So the spiritual power of life is a reminder that life is an ever evolving, ever growing, ever expanding experience that is calling us to always stretch and open ourselves to more life.
Life is all about becoming aware that you're a spiritual being having the spiritual experience in the human condition, and that we're not in charge of the human condition, but we certainly are in charge of how we handle the human condition.
And we say life is not a destination, it's a journey. And so wherever we may be on the journey, whatever we have recognized and realized, life wants to move us into its next step. Stride forward, onward, upward. Life is a beautiful thing, and as we awaken to that power, we see the life and the beauty of it and the goodness of it in people, in things, in all of creation.
The idea of eternal life really gives us a sense that we are part of a continuum that had no beginning and no end, and the idea that we are part of something so much grander than the parentheses that most of us identify with our own human life, can really give us a sense that we are empowered by life living its life through us, that we are a vessel for this life that never ends.
Life is that foundation. You know, if you think of being the spine, it's at the bottom. It's that foundation out of which everything else grows. And it's one of the main qualities of God that as we incorporate, we become more alive. And so I always like to think of, just even when I'm walking, God, life. God, life.
How many people do you know who are in their later years, chronologically? They may be in their late 70s, 80s, 90s, or 100s, and they are full of life. Why? Because they're in touch with that l'chaim, that life that is within, that inner life.
Life is that animating force within us that helps all the other powers to work. Without it, we're not going anywhere.
Hey. Uh-oh. I can't hear you, Adil. Are you able to hear me? Okay. Well, while we're waiting for Adil to come back, that was a clip from a movie that I produced called The 12 Powers, which was produced for the Unity churches around the world. And we used the meditation there on the hill looking down on the Syrian village as kind of the journey through the 12 powers, as we begin in Portland and then gather the troops together and then go to that hill overlooking that village in Syria. It was a beautiful thread to hold throughout the film, and it was a beautiful experience to share with the world. As you could see, there were so many people who were committed to being part of this great experiment. I love to think of it as a great experiment because so many people wonder, is this really true? Can we really generate the power to bring peace through our joined intention? And I think the answer, as we've proven many times before, is yes. And Adil, I think you're back. I think we can hear you now.
You can hear me?
Yep, we can hear you.
Cool, great. So, you know, I remember you calling me after this, and you know, like, are you watching the news? Are you watching what's happening on, I think it was at CNN? And my entire social media team was like, can you believe this? I think I remember one of my brothers calling me like visibly emotional, like he couldn't put his words together. And he said, are you watching the news? I'm like, I don't really watch the news that much, but what's happening? And he's like, Adil, they announced a ceasefire, or a cessation of hostilities. I believe they said. But it was like, whether it was the PR or it was the international pressure or the social media, or whether it was actually that the Maharishi effect had actually happened, or a confluence of all those forces. And that result was, it was days after there was basically it was there was an ending of the conflict in that region, at least.
You know, it doesn't even surprise me anymore, Adil, because I've seen that happen so many times. I remember the first time that this happened was one of the times that I was in Baghdad, because I was there twice. And when we had this meditation, there didn't seem to be any possibility of avoiding another conflict. In fact, the ships were in the Gulf, and little did we know that at the same time that the prayer vigil was happening, President Clinton had given the order for the bombing to begin. And the fighter jets were in the air. They were ready for the final order to drop their weapons. And to this day, no one knows quite what happened. But at the same time, millions of people were focusing their energy of peace on that situation. It was as if they couldn't drop the bombs, and Clinton gave a stand-down order, brought all the jets back to the aircraft carriers. A short while later, as if wondering why he had done that, sent them back up to begin the bombing, and once again called them back. And this was happening at the same time that millions of people were focusing, just as they did today. And you can say it's a coincidence, you can say it was going to happen anywhere, but as you were just saying, this happens over and over and over again. And this is why I say that when we come together and we join our intention in a feeling-based manner, not in old school praying, asking for something to happen, but to feel that it's already happened, to feel the energy of it having already occurred, it is not only a powerful force, but I believe it to be the most powerful force in the universe.
I couldn't concur with you more. Well, Jimmy, it's been wonderful being with you. Appreciate you so much. Appreciate the opportunity to participate in a miracle with you. This world is a miracle. Like this day, this weekend is a miracle. And we've got an opportunity to see what we've seen. We can't unsee that. And for those that have participated in these meditations, I just want to thank you so much. Thank you with all my heart for doing the work you did to know to know how important this is, to join us. And let's continue this work together. And please follow our work at unify.org and Jimmy's work at worldpeacepulse.com. And we're going to be, Jimmy, I want to do something with you some more, buddy. So we got to figure out something.
Right. Well, just to mention, as I said before, we're going to be on the DMZ doing a peace concert between North and South Korea, and there's going to be people all over the world focusing at that time. It's sponsored by the World Peace Prayer Society, and that'll be on October 20th. So, hey, that gives us weeks longer than we had for the Syria thing.
I'd like to formally invite the audience to join us on October 20th, and we'll send out details. If you register at unify.org or at worldpeacepulse.com, join us in these regular global meditations. Call in all light workers, call in all bodhisattvas. So, Jimmy, we've got to wrap up. We've got the United Religions Initiative coming up next with something really interesting. We're looking forward to it. Thank you, man. Thank you for taking this time. And look forward to our next adventure.
Thank you, brother. And thank you, everyone.
Hi, I'm Miranda Clendenning, one of the directors of UNIFY, and I'm here with Victor Kazanjian, Executive Director of URI, which is United Religions Initiative of the UN. Today, we're just going to be talking about some of the amazing, inspirational stuff that URI has going on in the world, contributing to peace in a huge way. Victor is also one of my favorite speakers and has been a huge inspiration to me over the last few years. This is part of the International Day of Peace and global broadcast for Peace Weekend, and we're happy to contribute and talk about URI.
Great, thank you. Thank you, Miranda, and greetings, everybody. It's great to be with you as we think about peace, in our lives, in our communities, in our world. Great to be with UNIFY as they bring us together in uniting us in this cause, which is so powerful and so promising. So it's really good to be part of this and to be bringing the energy together, bringing people together all around the world in order to bring peace into our lives, into our hearts, into our world. So in my office, which is in San Francisco, I'm part of this beautiful URI community around the world, grassroots, interfaith, peace-building community in 107 countries, and our global office is in San Francisco. And there's a picture on my wall, and it's a picture of the Earth from outer space, which was given to me by a friend who was actually an astronaut. She was piloting the space shuttle and took this beautiful image of the Earth, this kind of blue ball floating in space. And it looks so peaceful and so beautiful and so serene. And yet what we know was down on that planet, this planet that we're on, often people are locked in conflict. People are struggling with injustice. People are living in poverty. And people of different backgrounds, different beliefs often struggle to build community, struggle to find common cause. And so given what we see in the newspaper and what we see online and what we read every day, sometimes it would be nice to be so far away, just looking at that image of the Earth, so peaceful, so serene. But if that's the only image we had of Earth, of so far away, we would also miss that amidst the suffering that we know, there is also such beauty on this planet. There are people forming friendships and falling in love. There are people working together for peace in their communities every day. And from my perspective, I have the best job in the world because I get to hear stories, good news stories of people of different beliefs, different cultures working together in their communities every day for peace. So from my perspective, as I travel around the world, I see the vast majority of people who want peace, the vast majority of people who work for peace, the vast majority of people who want to build relationships with each other so that they can bring peace into their hearts and into their world. And I see that every day. And so for me, although we see that suffering around us, we need to be reminded that there are many, many more people working for peace in this world than there are people who want to disrupt, who want to bring violence. They may get the news more often than not, But those of us committed to peace are in the majority of this beautiful diversity of humankind that sees our diversity not as a problem to be solved, but as actually the promise of what it means to be human.
Yeah, I feel the same way. I tell people that all the time, that I have the best job on earth because I have the same experience. With UNIFY, we see thousands and thousands of organizations working for peace, even up into the millions now in research that we're doing, in conscious businesses working for making a better planet. And people, there's a huge positive movement going on of regenerative efforts and sustainability and peace and love and unity. And the amount of groups that we're trying to even put on the map right now, 15,000 groups for Peace Day events and Peace Weekend events, and we can't even get our map technology to hold that much that fast. We keep crashing our technology, which is a very interesting, amazing problem to have.
Absolutely.
But yeah, that's one of the reasons why we're doing this global broadcast, is to give the inspiration that we're seeing happening on the planet, because that's not what the news is covering. The news is constantly fear, 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 and everything's falling apart. And in some ways, there are things falling apart that are good to be falling apart, because what's being built is so incredible and inspirational. And we just want to share that story.
So true. And there are these forces in the world, and we see them in this country, in the United States, and around the world, that use division, that use dehumanization, that use the kind of delegitimizing of the other, who's different, as a way to divide and rule, divide and conquer. It's been this way forever. And yet what we know is the bonds of connection, the bonds of relationship across those lines of difference are so much more powerful than any attempts to divide us. But we need to connect. We need to be connected to each other. We need to really share our stories with each other. We need to get to know each other, get to understand the stories, the beautiful stories that come in so many different forms and shapes, and ways in which people worship, or ways in which people practice, ways in which people believe, that it's like an incredible garden. And wouldn't it be boring? I think there's a Baha'i saying that a garden of all one kind of flower is not nearly as beautiful as a garden that is made up of many different kinds of flowers, shapes, sizes, colors of flowers, all of which combine to make this beautiful garden. And for us, it's the garden of humanity, that we are in our difference. We are that beauty. We reflect the beauty. We know that in the biosphere, right, in the earth is an organic being in which diversity is necessary for life. It's essential for life. And so in the sociosphere, in the sphere of the human sphere, and the ways in which we interact with all living beings and animal life and plant life, the ways in which we interact, that diversity is our strength. And so connecting to that is our power.
Yeah, beautiful. And even in the work that we do with interfaith and nonviolent communication, there's a lot of tools going around. And Victor will talk a little bit about cooperation circles that URI does with local groups. But seeing a dynamic tension happen between groups, knowing that they have different beliefs and different faiths, is actually a beautiful thing to us. People hanging on to their own diversity and their own different beliefs, but finding that unity and the way that we can work together through love and peacemaking. It's important, and humanity is finding that and finding tools for that in whole new ways. That's really beautiful. And being able to say, I delight in love, I delight in knowing more about you and your faith and your beliefs and who you are and your culture, but I still want to be your brother or sister. That's amazing.
That's right. It's beautiful. Yeah, unity in diversity, unity through diversity, unity because of diversity. So as Miranda said, so in URI is this global grassroots interfaith network of groups called cooperation circles. Circles of people of different beliefs. And beliefs can be religious, they can be spiritual, they can be humanistic. We all have beliefs that shape our thoughts and our actions. And so when I think of interfaith, it's almost a too small word, because really we're talking about all human beings. all human beings bringing their beliefs into the mix and encountering each other. And in URI, we have these circles, and they're circles made up of at least 7 people of at least 3 different beliefs: indigenous, spiritual, religious, humanistic. And they choose a project in their community, whatever the humanitarian issues are in their community that they feel are most important to work on. They're independent, they're self-funding, they're self-coordinating, and URI is a network of almost 1,000 groups, cooperation circles, in these 107 countries who are working away locally, grassroots folks, right? We work mostly with grassroots people. There are leaders of communities that are a part of our groups, but they have no special standing. They're just members, because we are circles, and in a circle there's no head, there's no one's below another. We're all side by side. So we believe in the power of the circle to create change, and that diversity comes together in these circles in every continent of the world to work on problems, to work on issues of economic development, education, violence against women, youth empowerment, health, human welfare. All of those humanitarian issues can be engaged by grassroots folk coming together and doing it. And on this International Day of Peace, on this incredible time when the world is focused on peace, there are people around the world within the URI community gathering for concerts, gathering for work projects, service projects in their neighborhood, artists, musicians, people in all fields who are coming together to celebrate peace, but even more importantly, to bring peace as a reality in this moment, so that we know that even though it's a day, a weekend, actually peace is present and peace is possible every day. Every day, every week, throughout the year. We just need to need to remind each other.
Yeah, beautiful. I personally experienced the magic of cooperation circles last year. Victor came and spoke at a large interfaith event that we had last summer in July in Denver, Colorado. And as part of the preparation for that, I had already been doing interfaith work, but we adopted the cooperation circle model in Denver to help work for the events, and had people from, I think we had 15 in our group of all different faiths, and some not of faith as well, which was an amazing, being able to invite people in regardless of having a faith that they say that they have. Everybody believes in something and different things, and just welcoming of everybody and having that unity and working together. And it was such a beautiful experience for all of us. I think one of the things we were saying though is it's easy for all of us to work together with different faiths. The hardest time we have sometimes is with people in our own groups.
That's true.
So that was kind of shared across the board, is that development of unity and good communication and good team building is needed everywhere, in between the groups and in the groups, for all of us to just find ways to see each other and value each other and find that unity to be able to work together in the best ways possible. So it's continuing work.
You know, Miranda, you make me think, for me, unity is not uniformity.
Yeah.
And that's so important, right? Because it's not about all thinking the same way, all believing the same way. It's about bringing our differences, our different perspectives together to have a more powerful view on the world, or a more view on a problem to be solved. When I'm working with folks around issues of unity and unifying and coming together, I do this exercise where we all sit in a circle, and I bring a box. I put the box in the middle of the circle, and on each side of the box is a different symbol. The question is, how do you know what the box looks like? How do you know what the box looks like? And the rules, there's 2 rules. One, you can't move from your seat, because your seat is your perspective, and our perspectives are formed by our life experiences, and they give us particular lenses through which we see the world, beautiful, powerful, and they're our own, and so they're limited as well by our own perspective. Second rule is you can't move the box, because the box is the reality around us, the box is the world in which we're looking at. And so what happens in the exercise is you realize that the only way to know what the box looks like is to ask each person to give their perspective, and you build a collective understanding of the box or the world or a problem. And so each of our perspectives is unique, valuable, and partial. And that's the hard one, right? Because a lot of people believe that their perspective on the world is the only perspective, the true perspective. A lot of religions have taught that their perspective is the only true perspective. And that completely misunderstands our humanness, the limits of our humanness, and that we need each other. We need each other to know more about the world, to solve problems together. And the diversity of perspectives is like the diversity of beliefs, in that we need everyone in working together in order to bring the most we can to engaging a problem and solving that. So I developed that for children who are great at it. Adults are not so good at it. So it's we adults need a lot of help realizing that our perspective is valuable and unique, but it's also partial.
Yes. I also do a lot of work with children and youth, and I do find the same thing, that there's, for adults, we sometimes are given patterns that we not only have to undo, but we don't always have enough tools to figure out how to see the world in new ways and look at different perspectives. I took some master levels courses recently in ethics and bioethics, and we had to dissect all these different controversial subjects from every angle, you know, and write a paper on what it is to be on every single side of it and every player in a story, because the issues are so heated and the dynamic tension is like so great with opinions on either side. But when you put yourself in all of the positions, it's something every human being should learn to do. I think it was such a eye-opening experience for me to just see every single side and then realize I don't know how I feel, because I would have to be in that situation, be that person making that choice. And just knowing that people deserve to have choices, to have their own beliefs and their own truth, and everything means something different to other people. And the more you can get inside of their situation and have empathy and really realize where they're at and actually try to do that as a human, the more peacemaking we can do in the world.
That's right, that's right. And, you know, what we see, right, a lot happening around us is that people tend to migrate towards people with similar ideas, similar perspectives, similar beliefs. That's you know, in some ways it's a natural human characteristic. However, what we know is that that leads to a kind of fragmented world where people are not encountering each other and don't learn how to engage people who are different than they are. And so what do we see? We see on social media and Facebook, we see people migrating to their own kinds of worlds and only receiving information that they want to hear because it's what they already know. And we see that in communities as well, where communities have tended to isolate in different pockets around different identity, whatever that identity is. And that's okay, because there's a way in which coming together in similarity is a lovely thing, but it's not enough. So what we try to do is to create spaces where people can bring their differences, whether it's belief or perspective, whatever it is, identity, and learn from each other, not try to convince each other, but learn about each other, learn each other's stories, listen to the stories, appreciate those stories, a kind of appreciative inquiry process, which is so beautiful. And then begin to learn about the world through the other's eyes. Now, this can happen with people who are, you know, all committed to peace. That's great. But it can also happen with people who have very, very different ideas, and in some sense, very conflicting ideas. And so for us, part of what we do is to bring into communities practices that allow people to engage really serious differences, some of which have led to horrible violence and war. We work in the middle of war-torn areas. Mindanao in the Philippines is a good example right now, or the north of Uganda in the past, where our folks have been really active. And we work in places where people are kind of post-war, post-conflict, but still the deep hurts. Rwanda and the kind of genocide, post-genocide. But we also work with people in the United States and in Europe who have differences of opinion. As we're seeing right now, the political world tends to play off those differences and pit us against each other. And part of what we need to say as part of our peace building is no. We won't allow you to divide us. We may disagree with each other, but we will stand together for the benefit of our community and the benefit of the world. And so a movement that refuses to be divided, where people are uniting constantly, and again, not because they're uniform in ideas, but because they believe it's the only way to bring peace. That's sort of what we do.
Making me want to cry. I just really believe in the work that's happening around the world with all the unifying efforts and the platform that you guys have put forth as a tool to have leaders gather and be able to say, we're working together and we're going to keep working together and we're going to keep having these conversations. And it's really about that. It's about continuing to stay together and have the conversations. And with UNIFY, we create media that we help go viral, and we're forming a partnership with URI right now to continue to make media and continue this story of what's going on. So if you can tell people how they can find out how to become a cooperation circle, and how to find out, there are 1,000 groups almost going already in the world, and getting some more. We've been watching the beautiful footage that URI is sending us and creating a video to share. And it's so touching just to see the stories. And I feel like there's so many more that we don't have yet. So over this next year, forming your own circle, joining a circle, and getting the footage from more and more circles that are going around the world and their story, and seeing who's working together and just sharing that inspiration. But yeah, if you want to share.
Sure. And you know, first of all, the work that UNIFY is doing to me is some of the most important work that's happening in the world right now, because we're so influenced by the stories that we see or the stories that we don't see. And so when all you see is people in conflict, all you see is people who are pitted against each other, there's a great despair that grows, and we're seeing that. We're seeing that in some of the rise of the kind of authoritarian, patriarchal world that is really kind of pulling together. However, what UNIFY is doing is reminding us that beneath all that, there is a wholeness. There's a wholeness that's at the heart of humanity and a wholeness at the heart of all creation, and that we can connect to that. We can connect to that. So if you are interested in finding out more, URI.org is our wonderful website, and you can find out much more there. And again, we're a network. You know, we are an open network for anybody who wants to either join a group of diverse people who are working on humanitarian causes in their communities, building bridges. We're a bridge building organization. We're not a religious organization. We don't ascribe to or are funded by or align with any one religion. We are a group of people who believe that people of different beliefs, spiritual, religious, indigenous, humanistic, can come together and create change. And so you can join a circle, you can create a circle. There are circles all over this world of amazing people who are building relationships with each other, who are working in their communities together. And here at the UN, here we are in New York for this International Day of Peace. And we work a lot with UN agencies who are trying to help bring this world into a more positive and peaceful way. And for us, it's also about raising the voices of ordinary people who often aren't heard, whose voices aren't heard. But in my experience, it's ordinary people in communities who want health and well-being and peace for their children, for their families, for their friends. And so that is what we're about. So yeah, come check us out online, social media, Facebook. We have all kinds of good stuff happening on social media. And thanks to this partnership with UNIFY, we're going to be able to get those stories out in a much more powerful way. So thank you so much.
Thank you. And yeah, continue to follow UNIFY on Facebook and social media, and a video that we'll have that comes out later in the year telling more of the story of our UNIFY and United Religions Initiative story. And thank you guys for joining us.
All right. Peace.
Hi, I'm Zuna, and I'm from Slovakia, and I wish the world will be more in peace. I like nature, and I wish that all of you will be nice together, not like fighting, but good together, because then it's more good world, and I like that. So please be kind, and bye.
Hi, I'm Arthur from England. I pray for everybody to look after the planet and just care about each other and make friends. And just when I feel really free and I feel empty out of myself, I feel empty and then I feel so free in myself.
हमें विश्व शांति જોઈએ છે.
The deeper you go, the more you find yourself empty. Ultimately, you find yourself just as zero. And that is the point of enlightenment. Your ego has disappeared, your greed has far away disappeared. You have disappeared. There is only light, life, infinite, eternal. But you are not there as in person, but just a pure consciousness.
Attention! Attention! Can I have your attention, please?
It's urgent!
Urgent! It's urgent!
This is
an urgent message
from your children.
I feel really scared. The environment is kind of just getting torn apart. There's pollution, global warming, and people are just not caring about it.
Nature is getting destroyed. I mean, there's a bunch of logging, there's water pollution, there's air pollution.
I'm really concerned about fracking because I don't have no good water to drink.
Pipelines with gas inside, they can also explode.
And some people are throwing garbage in the ocean that makes the ocean polluted. So animals are also getting sick and can die out there. If animals are getting extinct, one day we're gonna get extinct if you don't stop. This makes me feel mad. It makes me feel upset.
I think it's terrible.
I feel ashamed because so far very few people are doing something about it. We will be sad because we don't have anywhere else to live.
I'm worried that this generation will be ruined and there will be nothing left for the next generation.
If this keeps going, well, the whole world is really gonna collapse.
Just give me a minute, please.
If we don't stop this, it will lead to a global disaster or even the destruction of Earth.
If we destroy all of this, then we'll have no other planet to live on. People act like it's nothing and it won't affect them, but soon it will.
Sometime in the future, I may be dead, I may not. It's going to affect us all in some horrible way. And so if we do something now, then maybe we can stop that from happening.
I would want to do something about it, though the people who really have that power don't really care.
It's not like there's an unstoppable force doing this to us. We can choose not to, do this to the planet and the environment.
I want to live in a world where children could look out the window and not see a sea of sadness, but somewhere where things thrive.
We're probably gonna have to, evolve.
Hey kids!
Hey kids!
Want to help us get the word out?
Will you join us?
Go to weyourchildren.org.
weyourchildren.org.
And upload your own video.
Upload your own video. Add your voice.
Tell your adults how you feel. Tell your adults how you feel.
Tell your adults how you feel.
And tell your friends to join us too.
If we can get 1 million kids.
1 million kids!
To add their voice.
Then grown-ups will have to listen.
The grown-ups will have to listen.
Go to weyourchildren.org.
weyourchildren.org.
We are your children.
We are your children.
unconscious in my mother's womb. On one side, I wanted to express myself as a human being. Yet, on the other side, I didn't, because I felt I was spirit.
Yogananda happens to be what I would call a spiritual prodigy.
Steve Jobs apparently had only one book on his iPad, The Autobiography of a Yogi.
The LA Times called him the first superstar guru of the 20th century.
Through this body, many shall receive the spiritual enlightenment of India.
God is taking me away to America.
Yogananda arrives in Los Angeles, and on the first night, over 6,000 people attend his talk.
Yogananda came and brought us a truth, a universal truth that no one can escape.
Here is a small brown mystic from a nation that very few Americans had ever been to, and he is here delivering his message with such force that he's making converts by the thousands. He was put on a government watch list and kept under surveillance. There was literally a war against yoga being waged in the media.
I am going through the severest trial of my life.
Yoga has become something that you do with your body, but it's really about the mind. Yogananda said that there was a secret link between the body and the spirit.
The technique of meditation, recharging the body battery with cosmic energy, but it is not a creed or dogma, but the science of the soul and spirit.
If I hadn't read that, I'd just be, some horrible person.
While he was writing the autobiography, we set off the first atomic bomb.
The need for the teachings was more urgent than ever.
He always said, the man who can reform himself can reform the world.
The physical world is not the highest reality. There's something beyond that we can partake of.
ആത്മസ്വരൂകളായിരിക്കുന്ന എല്ലാവർക്കും നമസ്കാരം. പ്രകൃതിയുടെ താളം മനുഷ്യനെ ആശ്രയിച്ചിരിക്കുന്നു. മനസ്സിൻ്റെയും ശരീരത്തിൻ്റെയും ആരോഗ്യത്തിനും ആയുസ്സിനും മനുഷ്യനും പ്രകൃതിയും ഈ താളം നിലനിർത്തേണ്ട ആവശ്യമാണ്. നമ്മുടെ ഈ അത്യാഗ്രഹം അല്ലെങ്കിൽ ഈ ദുരാഗ്രഹം, ഈ ദുസ്വഭാവത്തിന് മാറ്റം വരുത്താൻ നമ്മളുടെ ആത്മാർത്ഥമായ ആഗ്രഹം ആദ്യം ഉണ്ടാകും. എങ്കിലേ ലോകത്തിലും മാറ്റം വരും. എന്നാൽ നമ്മൾ മിക്കപ്പോഴും തിന്മകളെ അതിക്രമിക്കുന്നതിന് പകരം മനസ്സാക്ഷിയുടെ ശബ്ദം കേൾക്കാതിരിക്കാനാണ് നമ്മൾ ശ്രമിക്കുന്നത്. അതുകൊണ്ടാണ് അമ്മ എപ്പോഴും പറയുന്നത്, ഈ ലോകത്തെ ഒരു മരുഭൂമിയാക്കി മാറ്റരുതേ, സ്നേഹവും കാരുണ്യവും പറ്റിപ്പോവാൻ നമ്മൾ അനുവദിക്കരുത്. അങ്ങനെ സംഭവിച്ചാൽ പിന്നെ ഇവിടെ മനുഷ്യനുണ്ടാകില്ല. മനോഹരമായ ലോകം മനുഷ്യമൃഗങ്ങൾ നിറഞ്ഞ കാടായി മാറും. നമുക്കെല്ലാം അറിവുണ്ട് ഇതൊക്കെ ഇങ്ങനെയാണ്, പക്ഷെ ബോധമില്ല. അതുകൊണ്ട് അമ്മ പറയും, അറിവുണ്ട് ബോധമില്ല, ഇവരെ വേണ്ടി വേഗമില്ല. നമ്മുടെയൊക്കെ ബുദ്ധി വളരുന്നു, പക്ഷേ ഹൃദയം വരളാണ്. അപ്പോൾ അങ്ങനെ പോവാണ്. അതുകൊണ്ട് അമ്മ പറയും, ഈശ്വര ശക്തിയെ മടികൂടാതെ നമ്മൾ കൂട്ടുപിടിക്കണമെന്ന് പറയാൻ കാണും. ആ ഈശ്വര ശക്തിയെ മടികൂടാതെ കൂട്ടുപിടിക്കണമെന്ന് പറയുന്നത് നമ്മുടെ അഹങ്കാരമില്ലാത്ത പ്രയത്നത്തെ കൊണ്ടുവരാൻ. ഈശ്വരൻ സർവ്വവ്യാപിയാണ്, എല്ലാത്തിലും കുടികൊള്ളുന്നത്. ധർമ്മത്തിൻ്റെ പ്രതീകം, സത്യത്തിൻ്റെ പ്രതീകം, ദാനത്തിൻ്റെ പ്രതീകം, സ്നേഹത്തിൻ്റെ പ്രതീകം, പ്രകാശത്തിൻ്റെ പ്രതീകം, ജ്ഞാനത്തിൻ്റെ പ്രതീകം, അങ്ങനെയുള്ള ഒരു തത്വമാണ്. അപ്പോൾ ഈശ്വര വിശ്വാസത്തിൽ നിന്ന് നമുക്ക് ധർമ്മത്തെ കൊണ്ടുവരാൻ പറ്റും. ധർമ്മമാണല്ലോ താളലയം സൃഷ്ടിക്കുന്നത്. പ്രാർത്ഥനയിലൂടെ സ്നേഹത്തിൻ്റെ വിത്താണ് നമ്മുടെ വിതയ്ക്കുന്നത്. കുറേ വെള്ളത്തുള്ളികൾ ചേരുമ്പോഴാണ് ഒരു നദിയാകുന്നത്. അതിന് സമുദ്രങ്ങളുണ്ടായി. സമുദ്രമായതും നദിയായതും ഒക്കെ കുറേ വെള്ളത്തുള്ളികൾ ചേർന്നാണ്. ഒരു സീറോ ബൾബിന് മുമ്പിൽ ഇന്ന് പഠിക്കാൻ പറ്റില്ല, പക്ഷെ അനേക സീറോ ബൾബുകൾ വരുമ്പോൾ നമുക്ക് പഠിക്കാൻ പറ്റും. കൂട്ടായ്മ ഒരാൾ ചെയ്യുമ്പോൾ അടുത്ത ആൾ അങ്ങനെ ഒരു മാറ്റം ഉണ്ടാകും. അതുകൊണ്ട് ഒറ്റപ്പെട്ട ദ്വീപല്ല, നമ്മളൊരു ശൃംഖലയുടെ കണ്ണിയാണ്. അവർ മാറി നമ്മൾ മാറാൻ കണക്കില്ല. അവർ മാറിയില്ലെങ്കിലും നമ്മൾ മാറിയാൽ അവരിൽ മാറ്റം ഉണ്ടാക്കാമെന്ന് പറയുന്നത് അതാണ്. പ്രാർത്ഥനയിലൂടെ സ്നേഹത്തിൻ്റെ വിത്താണ് നമ്മൾ വിതയ്ക്കുന്നത്. സ്നേഹമുണ്ടെങ്കിൽ നമ്മുടെ കയ്യിലുള്ള ഒരു റൊട്ടി രണ്ടും പരസ്പരം പങ്കുവെച്ചില്ലേ കഴിക്കും. അതുപോലെ മറ്റുള്ളവർ നമ്മൾ ചിന്തിക്കുകയല്ല, കഴിക്കും. ഒരു മരുഭൂമിയിൽ ഒരു പുഷ്പം വിടുന്ന അത്രയും ഭംഗിയുണ്ടല്ലോ, ഒരു വൃക്ഷം നിന്ന് അത്രയും തണൽ കിട്ടത്തില്ലേ. പ്രാർത്ഥന സ്നേഹമാണ്. സ്നേഹത്തിന് ശുദ്ധമായ തരംഗമാണ്, അതിലൂടെ ലോകവും പരക്കുന്നത്. താമര സൂര്യപ്രകാശം കൊണ്ട് വിരിയുന്നുണ്ട്. ആമ്പലെന്ന് പറയും, അല്ലി എന്നും പറയും. സൂര്യപ്രകാശം ചന്ദ്രനിൽ തട്ടിയിട്ട് വരുമ്പോൾ ആ ചന്ദ്രപ്രകാശം കൊണ്ടാണ് ആമ്പൽപ്പൂ വിരിയുന്നത്. താഴമ്പൂ അങ്ങനെയല്ല, അത് ഇടിവെട്ടിയാലേ വിരിയുള്ളൂ. ഇടിവെട്ടിയാലേ നമ്മൾ താഴമ്പൂവിന് വിരിയത്തുള്ളെന്ന് പറഞ്ഞ പോലെ ഇനിയും ദുരന്തങ്ങളുണ്ടാകാൻ കാത്തു നിൽക്കാതെ നമ്മൾ ഉണരണം. ഇപ്പം നഷ്ടപ്പെട്ട ഓർത്ത് വിലപിച്ച് നമ്മുടെ ജീവിതം നഷ്ടപ്പെടുത്താതെ നമ്മളുള്ള ഈ രത്നം എന്നുവെച്ചാൽ ഈ നിമിഷം, ഈ രത്നം എന്ന് പറഞ്ഞാൽ ഈ നിമിഷമാണ്. ഈ നിമിഷത്തെ വിവേകത്തോടും നമ്മൾ നീങ്ങിയാൽ നമ്മൾ തീർച്ചയായിട്ടും സന്തോഷവും ഐശ്വര്യവും സമൃദ്ധിയും നമുക്ക് കൊണ്ടുവരാൻ സാധിക്കും.
Gunuschish dikiam kawu, gunuschish hashagenya, gunuschish hashuka yayagi. Wa'eachsati ikat tuchatam. I thank the Creator, I thank the Great Spirit, and I thank our ancestors for this day. We put our trust in you. Linuksin yuchat duasak. Gishbuwada ayachat. Kiksadi yadi chasati. Sit querida chkank. Atlich. Yechyadi kla nanyaish takin kwanayachat. My name is Sweetwater Nanak. I'm from the Kilauea clan of the Tsimshian Nation from Alaska. My father is from the Raven Frog clan of the Tlingit Nation. I am the grandchild of the Glacier People clan. My great-grandmother, Yechyadi Kla, was the precious grandchild of the Upper Living People clan from the Stikine River in Alaska. To honor to be here today and standing united with one body, one mind, one spirit, for peace, for us and the 7 generations. So all around the world, everyone is coming together for prayer for peace with Native people. You know, we have peace within ourselves, peace with Mother Earth, with each other, and focus on healing. A lot of work I do is about healing historical trauma and what that trauma that was passed on, because we believe not only is the trauma that is passed on, but ways of healing. Our original instructions that our ancestors have is ways for our healing, that our culture is medicine for us. And so I want to share with you a story that I share. I'm a traditional storyteller, dancer, singer, a traditional healer. And when I used to do storytelling with youth in Seattle, I tell them this story that comes from my people. Hundreds of years ago, from the Tsimshian people from Canada came up to Alaska. The Kilauea clan, of which my mother is from, came to fight with my father's clan, their people, which they used a crest, the Kilauea crest also. It's kind of like who's the baddest Kilauea on the block kind of thing. In a traditional way, they came to fight us. And so they fought out on what's now called Doll Island. And there, our Tlingit people, we defeated them and captured their chiefs. There was 5 of them. And so many years, long ago, when we got tired of fighting with our enemies or wanting for this wars to come to an end, we would have a peace ceremony. And so we had a ceremony in which those ceremonies, we would exchange 4 young men, which they called guacan, they were deer, because deer are docile animals. And so we exchanged 4 men, and those 4 men would come into our enemy's home, and they would tie their dominant hand behind their back. And so those enemies, their family, would take care of those deer. They would feed them, bathe them, take care of all their needs while they were there, while they're preparing for the ceremony. And so during that ceremony, when they're ready, they would bring them out and exchange them. But before they do that, they, you know, when we were at war, they would keep track of all the people they had killed on each side. Sometimes they would notch it on a stick. Sometimes they would have a bag and keep pebbles in it to count how many were killed on each side. And so during the ceremony, they would take turns sharing what the other had done to harm them, how many people were killed, and then pay indemnity to them. And so that's what we did. And so we would gift them in how many people we had killed of our enemy. And because the Tsimshian came from Canada, they had not many resources with them. And so where we were in our home place, we had many gifts to offer them. So in exchange, instead they gave us their stories, their names. And so this killer whale clan, they gave a name to my family. It was We Shakes, and it means splasher, a killer whale name. The Tlingit people, we have a tradition of shortening names, nicknames, you may call them. And so they shortened that name to Shakes. And so that name was passed on down my family line. We're at Chief Shakes, the 8th now. And that's where the name came from. So I share this story with youth when I talk to schools and ask them, how many of your relatives have been in the military? Your dads, your uncles, your grandfathers. Most of the kids raise their hand. And I say, can you imagine bringing an enemy into your home and taking care of them, treating them with kindness and respect and love, compassion, and fulfilling this peace ceremony? And most of the kids, they just can't imagine something like that happening. I say, these people may have killed your uncle, your brother, your grandfather. And so this was our ways of healing and making peace. We have stories about this too with another Tlinkits from Sitka, the Kagwantan clan. And by then we had a peacemaking treaty in 1918 with them. And so I think, you know, this is some of our original instructions, our teachings we could share with the world in learning how to make peace. And the other thing I've learned from this too is knowing who you are and where you came from, what happened to your ancestors. Because this story I'm talking and sharing about, it was a few hundred years ago also with the Kagwantan in Sitka, Shiadaka, what our people called it. They had a potlatch there one day and invited people from all over. Our people came from the Stikine, from Wrangell. And when they were there for this potlatch, when it was over, there was someone from our village who stole somebody else's wife. And she ran off with him when they were leaving. And so her husband's clan came after them and attacked them and killed them. But because of that battle, you know, they killed more. And so in our culture, it was more like an eye for an eye, a tooth for a tooth. Like I was saying, how we kept tracked by the stones and the sticks. And so our people, like, well, you killed this many of our people, now we have to come back and kill them. And so this went back and forth until finally they offered to have a peace ceremony. But there are people from the Stikine on their way up to Shiadaka. They stopped in Kishkwan because they have alliance and allies there in our village. And one of the medicine people told them, don't go up there, and warned our people, or they're going to kill you. And so my people and family, we turned back and went back to the Shtakin, but there was still a group that went on up to Shiatica. And when you go to a peace ceremony, you don't bring your weapons in with you into the house. And so they didn't, and when they got there, they ambushed them and killed them all. And so, and this was just before contact with white people. And by the time they came, they outlawed our ceremonies and ways to make, every potlatch and our tradition, our language, our ways, and our cultures. And so they couldn't have a traditional peace ceremony after that. But one of my ancestors, Tilly Paul, she went to school there. It was called Sheldon Jackson. She became an interpreter and a teacher. And she was gifted from that clan a beautiful handmade buckskin dress, and that was a way of making peace with us, since we couldn't have the ceremony. And so years later, many generations later, I'm living in Seattle now, and I worked for a famous artist, Tlingit artist, and he's from that same clan, the Kagwantam from Shiatica. And we help each other in our work. I have another friend too, because I was in a traditional Tlingit dance group in Seattle. And there's a song, it's called Here Comes the Killiwales. We use it as an entrance song when we come into the dancing into the ceremony. And so us from the Killiwale clan and the Kagwantan also use the Killiwale as a crest. And so we would be all up front. And there were 3 generations, the mom, my friend, and her daughters. And then there were me. And so they adopted me like family. And everywhere, whenever we were together, we came in dancing together. But I stayed with them sometimes. I go visit with them, and I talk to her mom. And I'd always bring our traditional food to share with them. And she would talk and share stories with me and treat me like her daughter. And so this is, I guess, how it may have changed and evolved, that if you know who you are and where you come from. And that's why I share, in our culture, we believe that when we die, we come back to our same family or clan. And so I am my ancestor, as are they. And we've made the peace, and we love each other and care for each other. And only that love can cancel out that hatred and murder and dying that happened long ago. So I encourage people, think about what you're doing here today. Ask your family stories. Where did you come from? Have you harmed other people? Have your ancestors harmed other people? And that there's ways we can make peace today. So be a good ancestor and remember these and learn your own stories and teachings and original instructions. So a lot of this is what I share in the work I do, teaching about decolonization, about the history of colonization, the historical trauma, because that's what it was. It is what we now call today historical trauma that was passed on, that we're here to heal. And so you can find me on Idle No More Washington on Facebook, and I invite you to participate in some of these workshops about healing. So Gunashish, thank you for listening to my words.
അപ്പം അന്ന് ആവശ്യത്തിനടുത്ത് മറ്റുള്ള ഒരു കാരുണ്യം ഉണ്ടായിരുന്നു സമൂഹത്തിൽ. അവരാരും കെട്ടണ്ട നമ്മൾ പറയുന്നില്ല, രക്ഷിക്കട അത് കെട്ടിട്ട്, പക്ഷേ ആ സംസ്കാരം ആവശ്യത്തിനടുത്ത് മറ്റേ കൊടുക്കുന്ന സംസ്കാരം. ഗ്രാമങ്ങളിലുള്ള എൻ്റെ അമ്മ അടുത്ത വീട്ടിൽ ഇവിടുത്തെ 30 വീടുള്ള ചുവട് നടന്ന അടുത്ത വീടാണ്. അവിടെ പോകണമെങ്കിൽ 30 ചവിട്ട് നടന്നാൽ മതി. പക്ഷെ ഇപ്പോൾ ഒരു വീട്ടിൽ തീപ്പെട്ടി കത്തിക്കത്തില്ല. മറ്റേ വീട്ടിലാണ് ആദ്യം കത്തുന്നതെങ്കിൽ ആ തീ കൊണ്ടുവന്ന് നമ്മുടെ വീട്ടിൽ കത്തിക്കും. അവിടെയാണ് വിളക്ക് ആദ്യം കത്തിയും നമ്മൾ കത്തും. നമ്മുടെ വീട്ടിലാണ് കത്ത് അവരെടുക്കും. അപ്പോൾ തീക്ക് പോകുമ്പോൾ എൻ്റെ അമ്മമാരെ അവിടെ ആൾക്കാർ തൂത്ത് വൃത്തിയാക്കി നമ്മളെ വൃത്തിയാക്കിയിട്ട് പാത്രം കഴുകി വെച്ചിട്ട് തീ എടുത്തുകൊണ്ട് വരാവുള്ളൂ എന്ന് പറയും. പിന്നെ നമ്മുടെ വീട്ടിലാണ് ഭക്ഷണം വേവുന്നതെങ്കിൽ അവിടെ നിന്ന് തൊഴിൽ പോയി കിട്ടി ജീവിക്കുന്നവരാണ്. ബാങ്ക് ബാലൻസില്ല, അക്കൗണ്ട് ബുക്ക് ചെയ്യില്ല. അപ്പം നമ്മുടെ വീട്ടിൽ വേഗം ഈ ഭക്ഷണം കുറച്ച് എടുത്തിട്ട് അവിടുത്തെ കുഞ്ഞുങ്ങൾ പട്ടിണി കിടക്കാണ്, ജോലിക്കാർ പോയി വന്നിട്ടില്ല, അപ്പം കുഞ്ഞുങ്ങളെ കൊണ്ട് കുടിച്ചിട്ട് വരാൻ പറയും. അപ്പം നമ്മൾ കഴിക്കുന്നതിന് മുമ്പേ അയലത്ത് വീട്ടുകാരും കഴിച്ചോന്നാണിത്. അതുപോലെ നമ്മൾ ഇന്ന് തൂത്തുവാരി അങ്ങോട്ടിടും, അന്ന് അവിടെ തൂത്തുവാരി ഇട്ട് അപ്പം അങ്ങ് അത്ര കണ്ട് മറിഞ്ഞു വന്ന സംസ്കാരം.
My name is Tom Shadyac. I'm a movie director. Action! Facing my own death brought an instant sense of clarity and purpose. I decided to grab a camera and a film crew of 4 and start a journey to spark a conversation around challenging and rarely asked questions. Have you ever seen any of my movies? Did you ever see Ace Ventura? Ace Ventura? Did you ever hear that movie? It's a Jim Carrey movie.
No.
We are asking some of today's significant minds, what's wrong with our world and what can we do about it? Most importantly, what we could do about it.
Science has discovered elements that undermine everything we've been told about how we work and how the world works.
We are more interconnected with each other at a fundamental level than people realize or previously thought.
The truth of who we are is that we are because we belong.
The basis of nature is cooperation and democracy. It's in our DNA.
We're just at the point where technology and this narrative are beginning to come together.
The science shows us that we are all connected.
Very deep connections at a very deep level.
This is the most profound discovery in all of physics.
What we do at the individual level really does affect the global environment.
We're really geared at a primordial level to feel what another person feels.
It's like we are born to be our brother's keeper. It's the way that we're wired.
This is the emerging story.
We are far grander than we've been told.
We started by asking what's wrong with the world, and we ended up discovering what's right with it.
We already have all the solutions to all the big problems in the world. They already exist.
The people all over the planet are waking up.
How you think and how you feel creates a state of being.
Over 8,000 original episodes, films, and documentaries, so you can find your own answers to some of life's biggest questions, all on an ad-free platform designed to empower the evolution of consciousness. Go to Gaia.com today.
Most people wish for peace. Many people strive for peace. But there are few people who have embodied peace as tirelessly as the gentle Buddhist monk from Vietnam, Thich Nhat Hanh. Known affectionately as Tay, this beloved spiritual icon is engaged in peacemaking for more than 50 years. Sung as a chant by Phap Nhiem and translated by Tay, this prayer is a poignant clarion call for peace. And now, more than ever, let's use the awakening power of beauty itself to strengthen global peace in our communities, and most importantly, in ourselves. Because only when we can be the change will we see the change. As you take a few minutes to drop into the stillness within, allow yourself to reconnect recharge, and remember. May all beings be happy, safe, and free. This is the end of suffering, invoking peacefulness, featuring Thich Nhat Hanh.
May the sound of this bell penetrate deep into the cosmos. Even in the darkest spots, living beings are able to hear it clearly, so that all suffering in them cease, understanding come to their heart, and they transcend the path of sorrow and death. The universal Dharma door is already open. The sound of the rising tide is heard clearly. The miracle happens. A beautiful child appears in the heart of a lotus flower. One single drop of this compassionate water is enough to bring back the refreshing spring to our mountains and rivers. Nghe chuông phiền não tan mây khói, lặng thân an miệng mỉm cười. Hơi thở nương chuông về chánh niệm, vườn tâm hoa tuệ xinh tươi. Listening to the bell, I feel the afflictions in me begin to dissolve. My mind calm, my body relax. A smile is born on my lips. Following the sound of the bell, my breath brings me back to the safe island of mindfulness. In the garden of my heart, the flowers of peace bloom beautifully.
Phổ môn vọng tiếng tiểu dưng bé thơ xuất hiện giữa lòng đóa sen cơm lộ một giọt rơi lên xuân về trên khắp mọi miền núi sông. Phổ môn vọng tiếng tiểu dưng bé thơ xuất hiện giữa lòng đóa sen cơm lộ một giọt rơi lên xuân về trên khắp mọi miền núi sông.
I hope you have a beautiful day.
Hi, I'm Zuna, and I'm from Slovakia, and I wish the world will be more in peace. I like nature, and I wish that all of you will be nice together, not like fighting, but good together, because then it's more good world, and I like that. So please be kind and bye.
Hi, I'm Arthur from England. I pray for everybody to look after the planet and just care about each other and make friends. And just when I feel really free and I feel empty out of myself, I feel empty and then I feel so free in myself.
हमें विश्व शांति જોઈએ છે.
The deeper you go, the more you find yourself empty. Ultimately, you find yourself just as zero. And that is the point of enlightenment. Your ego has disappeared, your greed has far away disappeared. You have disappeared. There is only light, life, infinite, eternal. But you are not there as a person, but just a pure consciousness.
Attention! Attention! Can I have your attention, please?
It's urgent!
Urgent! It's urgent!
This is
an urgent message
from your children!
I feel really scared. The environment is kind of just getting torn apart. There's pollution, global warming, and people are just not caring about it.
Nature is getting destroyed. I mean, there's a bunch of logging, there's water pollution, there's air pollution.
I'm really concerned about fracking because I don't have no good water to drink.
Pipelines with
gas inside, they can also explode.
And some people are throwing garbage in the ocean that makes the ocean polluted. So animals are also getting sick and can die out there.
If animals are getting extinct, one day we're gonna get extinct if you don't stop. This makes me feel mad. It makes me feel upset.
I think it's terrible.
I feel ashamed because so far very few people are doing something about it. We will be sad because we don't have anywhere else to live.
I'm worried that this generation will be ruined and there will be nothing left for the next generation.
If this keeps going, well, the whole world is really gonna collapse.
Just give me a minute, please.
If we don't stop this, it will lead to a global disaster or even the destruction of Earth.
If we destroy all of this, then we'll have no other planet to live on. People act like it's nothing and it won't affect them, but soon it will.
Sometime in the future, I may be dead, I may not. It's going to affect us all in some horrible way. And so if we do something now, then maybe we can stop that from happening.
I would want to do something about it, though the people who really have that power don't really care.
It's not like there's an unstoppable force doing this to us. We can choose not to, do this to the planet and the environment.
I want to live in a world where children could look out the window and not see a sea of sadness, but somewhere where things thrive.
We're probably gonna have to, evolve.
Hey kids!
Hey kids!
Want to help us get the word out?
Will you join us?
Go to weyourchildren.org.
weyourchildren.org.
And upload your own video.
Upload your own video. And your voice.
Tell your adults how you feel.
Tell your adults how you feel. Tell your adults how you feel. And tell your friends to join us too.
If we can get 1 million kids.
1 million kids!
To add their voice.
Then grown-ups will have to listen.
The grown-ups will have to listen. Go to weyourchildren.org.
weyourchildren.org.
We are your children.
We are your children.
I was conscious in my mother's womb. On one side, I wanted to express myself as a human being. Yet, on the other side, I didn't, because I felt I was spirit.
Yogananda happens to be what I would call a spiritual prodigy.
Steve Jobs apparently had only one book on his iPad, The Autobiography of a Yogi.
The LA Times called him the first superstar guru of the 20th century.
Through this body, many shall receive the spiritual enlightenment of India.
God is taking me away to America.
Yogananda arrives in Los Angeles, and on the first night, over 6,000 people attend his talk.
Yogananda came and brought us a truth, a universal truth that no one can escape.
Here is a small, brown mystic from a nation that very few Americans had ever been to. And he is here delivering his message with such force that he's making converts by the thousands. He was put on a government watch list and kept under surveillance. There was literally a war against yoga being waged in the media.
I am going through the severest trial of my life.
Yoga has become something that you do with your body, but it's really about the mind. Yogananda said that there was a secret link between the body and the spirit.
The technique of meditation, recharging the body battery with cosmic energy, for it is not a creed or dogma, but the science of the soul and spirit.
If I hadn't read that, I'd just be, some horrible person.
While he was writing the autobiography, we set off the first atomic bomb.
The need for the teachings was more urgent than ever.
He always said, the man who can reform himself can reform the world.
the physical world is not the highest reality. There's something beyond that that we can partake of.
I think world peace is about understanding and listening to others, creating a world in which we can have a dialogue with differing points of view, but a dialogue about it, understanding that we're all one community and we're all interlinked, and this is one planet we're all living on. And how do we build that respect? How do we build that tolerance? And how do we build the patience to listen to another point of view, to try and learn from somebody who has an opinion much different than our own? And I think that leads to the inner peace and the self-respect that we all get from being a participant in the dialogue and not being part of a division somewhere. I personally am excited about the progress people are making toward this journey and making the progress we're making in trying to reach world peace. And in my heart, if somebody says, you got one wish, what's it for? It's for that we could all get along and we could all have peace in the world. I think world peace.
Hello, I'm Karen Berg, the founder of the Kabbalah Center. And I truly believe that the avenue for peace exists within the frame of human dignity. That can you imagine if each person in the world realized that in our differences, how beautiful we are. I believe truly that a world cannot exist with peace if the peoples in the world are full of chaos. And therefore it is super important for each one of us to spend some time within themselves and find an avenue for their own personal peace. And with that relationship to themselves, they can transmit to the world, and hopefully we will reach the day when the world will be at one-ment. To learn more about myself or the study of Kabbalah, please visit me at karenberg.com.
Thank you. Hi, everybody, UNIFY family. What's up?
Hi, I'm Lori, and Adel, you know. And I think why we're here is that there is a big piece with peace to have an intergenerational healing, that when my generation tried to do this yay long ago in the 60s, we also had don't trust anyone over 30. And I think the beauty of the world now is this peaceful inclusion where all generations are needed to show up and be able to help with the healing for peace. So we wanted to...
I have an idea. So for this segment, you know, these productions, this is sort of new for us. Most of it's structured, like you actually plan as much of it out as you can, the media pieces and lower thirds and all this stuff. And there was a shift that happened in our meditation that was held. There was the thoughts of a guided meditation, but then who to guide the meditation, and then what felt just natural. And at the end of the day, I feel like we made a decision in spontaneously almost to be like, let's just create space for people to just go into their inner world. They don't want to hear us talk. They don't want to hear our transmission. They want to attune to the divine in their way. And so in that way, those shifts that made last minute things change, you kind of roll with the punches. And sometimes magical things happen when you do that. And so this segment, me and Lori decided to do an experiment. And the experiment was,
we're going to freestyle.
What if we were to just show up? And Lori has a gift, has a very profound gift of interfacing with intelligence in a way that I've never experienced with anybody else before. And it's not just something I like. that illuminates what happens in my world. It creates a certain resonance that opens it up in me too, and in others around us. I remember a couple of weeks ago when we were planning, just 5 minutes before she called, I got like hit with a wave of like, oh my God, I have to have a nap right now. I can't, we were just in the middle of workday. And I went and it wasn't a nap. I felt like I had to just go lie down while we were talking and planning. And
Like you're getting rewired?
yeah, that's exactly, well, what it felt like was I went and grabbed my crystals and I went and lied down. I'm like, she'll never know. I'm just going to lie down on my bed. And I went into just the deepest hypnagogic state. Like I went to like an altered state of awareness. Like it was overwhelming. Like I couldn't stand up kind of. I'm like, what is happening? And it wasn't planned. It was spontaneous. Like I didn't intend for it, but it had to happen. And
I had a very similar experience after Adel and I connected and we agreed to co-host and be partners for 2 days. His energetic field and my energetic field needed to integrate. Like he holds this force field of a battalion of angels. And I guess we met up, the vastness of us. And so I think if I could share anything, I think you please welcome everybody as a spiritual psychologist to really embrace their vastness, because you're not just your corporal form. Like when you show up, it is not just you and your agreement to this linear time-space understanding that you meet Sally at 3 o'clock. This is you, vast you, with the battalion of all your ancestors, all that you call in on a daily basis, all that you are, melding now at a rapid speed, faster than the speed of thought and almost faster than the speed of trust, to help each other in bigger ways for us to usher in peace. So peace will not look like what it looked like before, even though we weren't there yet. The attainment of peace now will look very different. What do you think?
It has to be something creative and fresh that is emergent in the world that is now. We can lean upon precedents or metaphors even, but how the miracle reveals itself spontaneously in time is according to the confluence of the forces that are here now. And where you think about what we're doing right now, like where you are, that like think about how much had to actually be created, for you to have a computer that was consistent with an internet connection, for us to have this broadcast, and the precedent of TV, and the audio systems working, all that for us actually, like in 3D form,
yes,
link consciousness.
So those pauses to understand how much is orchestrated on high for us to be exactly where we are and with the people that we are with, and that nothing is without purpose and meaning, and for us to grow with. So we, truthfully, for all full transparency, Adel and I had a little bit of a wobble within our relationship with just now, and we had to take a minute before we came on to reharmonize. But what occurred to us was that this new way, if we're really ushering this new paradigm of peace, is not to usually customarily respond to the way one would if one got their toe stepped on. That actually we have to come into it in a new way. We can't just rely on our old methodologies, as enlightened as we hope and feel we are. We really need to do it in a new way. So you want to know what we did? Okay, we'll tell you. You go.
No, you go.
Okay. We held hands. We prayed. We asked each other what we got from our highest self. We saw whether we shared the information to see whether we were in agreement. If we weren't in agreement, we kept going, checking in, going in and up, as I call it, and kept reconsulting with ourselves until we reached an understanding that felt good. So you have to keep yourself informed. Like my body is my readout. Like if my body feels good and my throat isn't tight and my heart is open, I know that I'm cooking. How about you?
This is true. The word energy, kind of your energy levels. Do you notice if you've ever had your heart broken, like really smashed? Is there no amount of food you're going to eat or not eat or any energy drinks that bring up your energy. It's like things are aligned in such a way that it feels crooked, right? Like inside. At the same way, when you're like, have you ever watched a singer? You know, like, have you ever had this experience when someone's like not that good looking, but the minute they start singing, you're like, how come I didn't notice that you're the most beautiful thing I've ever seen in my freaking life? And it's because their genetics are adjusting to the divinity that's moving through them, right? Oh, you probably heard that statement, oh God, make the crooked way straight. And so, as you were saying, like how you feel in your own body as to what's happening on a moment-to-moment basis, in the in the experience as you read the book of your life, is your barometer. And it was a funky thing that happened, a ripple in the force. It was unintentional, and it made both me and Lori feel like, oh, that doesn't feel good. And the old me, I think I would have been like, yeah, well, brush it off, no big deal. And Lori,
well, actually, he tried to brush it off, and I held his feet to the fire, actually, which women do, right?
I might have, and Lori might have just stomped off and be like, you know what, I'm not taking this bullshit anymore. And
he caught me, and I didn't walk. I stayed, and I really checked. You know, before I almost left the studio, I did check. I really self-consulted. And I think that that's, you know, it's more than what our parents taught us about count to 10 and don't operate from a knee-jerk reaction. I think it's more about consulting to source, your highest self that can see with eagle vision all the players. And I think that if I had any prayer for the world right now with world peace, it would be for all of us to operate from that place, if attainable, which I hold the hope that we can, where everything is orchestrated and everything is a soul agreement, and that we don't take anything for granted, and that even when we step on each other's toes and hurts get had, that it really is for a reason, that it's for us to grow and to reconnect to self and other at a deeper loving way. And
that was like inner peace in action, right? I think honestly, and I feel like I wanted to create some space to ask you, you want to do this on camera? Like, are you down to do this in like real life? Like, what is true to you now? Do you want to like, would you be down to like just
let it rip?
Yeah. Do you want to like tune in with me for a sec?
Yeah.
And for any of you that are feeling this and are watching this, like this is some true vulnerability. We don't know what's about to happen next. We don't know what's coming next, and not scripted. And so would you join us in consciousness? Would you be open to just taking a spontaneous moment and attuning to your highest self, to the divine?
Almost like here's what I ask myself. It's a suggestion to everybody else, but I ask every day, multiple times a day, what is it that I need to understand or know that I wouldn't even know to ask? Because then I'm expanding beyond my pattern, and the system that created it cannot always fix it, which is always why I go in and up, because I'm asking that which is my highest self, the divine, to help me out of the hole. So why don't we all do that? Is that what you want?
Yeah, let's do it.
Okay, let's do it.
Let's do it. And then when you're ready.
I'm done. You want to go first? You want me to go first? Okay, so I feel compelled to share what's coming through me. I am a vehicle, but I also am a part of it. So I know that a lot of you understand what that means. It is you, it's all you, yet there's something that's coming through and you don't know kind of what's going to happen next. But I feel compelled to say there's a lot of energies here on Earth right now that have been working against world peace, a lot of even though we're symbiotic with a lot of different realms and universes, multiverses, parallel universes, waves, particles, whatever you want to call it, from whatever lens you work from, there's a lot of wobble, especially when you're trying to bring in a big shift. And to embrace that when it shows up. So for me, it's like I'll be sitting there. There's no song that triggers a bad feeling. There's no memory of a waft of aroma of a thing my mother might have cooked that makes me sad for her. There's no trigger, meaningful trigger. But yet this waft of sadness or instability comes over me, and I will consult, like, what is going on? There are energies here that live amongst us that are also trying to get to the light. So my work is to invite them in, much like an orphan whose face is pushed up against the pane of a glass, looking at a family having dinner and a fire and laughter. They want to come to the light. These energies do want to come to the light. Invite them in, and don't be afraid when they come. And everybody's got a different way of processing their intuitive material. And I find that the portal that you use is usually the portal that you process most information: visual, auditory, sensory, dreams. Invite it in. Let's stop being exclusionary to that which feels like the dark. The dark could be uninterpreted light. And if we're coming into a new paradigm shift of embracing our vastness, let's embrace the vastness of all that is. What do you get?
The divine reveals itself in the presence through what it feels like inside, and the book that you're reading externally, they're the same book. What you're feeling and what you're tracking, the omens that you're tracking, the synchronicities, the magic, it's only one book, and you're reading it at all times, and you have mastery in that reading. And to create room and time and space for nothing planned. And that the communion can happen with your eyes open in your days as you're walking about. A simple trigger can be to just ask yourself, where am I right now? Where am I? And then allow yourself to just answer here, now. And just feel what your consciousness does when you do that. And sometimes I go a little bit further and ask, where are you, God? Like, as if it's something external to us, right? But sometimes it's easier to address it like that. But where are you? And I wait until I get here, now. And then I let whatever is opening up to open up big, and to receive whatever it is that I need in that moment. And then I guess the game of my life, and I think we're all playing a different video game, right? But we're all playing the same game. We've all experienced consciousness inside this body. We're experiencing something. We're here in the Western world, we share a ton, but we're all playing our own little video game. And the video game that I've been playing is how to respond to and act from what I'm experiencing impeccably, like just in the moment to moment. The difficulty is you don't always know. You don't always know what it's going to be, or you come to trust it. And in time, I'm sure it's the same way for many of you, come to surrender to it. And in time, are animated by it. And I invite you to to allow that, to allow, try as an experiment. Try to be like, okay, I'm going to dedicate this hour to my spiritual life. I'm going to ask that the holiest of the holies walk through these feet and touch through these hands, love through this heart and look through these eyes and think through this brain and be through this being, and just give space for what you're being loved by to love. Just truly.
Beautiful. We're good.
We good?
We're good.
So what's happening?
We're good. We're good. Director, come back. We're good. So, what else do we need to share with you?
What do you need to share? I'd love to hear your soul. Give it to them, Lori.
I just feel like there's such light happening right now. There is life in life. There is love in love. I think the whole world is the possibility of ignition toward a new shift right now. We know it. That's why we're all here together, here, and here. It's big.
Okay, so we're gonna check out. We'll be back.
Okay, well, I think we're gonna check out for a bit, reset this little bad boy, and then we'll be back in how much time do you think, Josh?
10 minutes.
About 10 minutes. Reset the link and be back in about 10 minutes. Love you guys. Today's World Peace Weekend. We're on Sunday, Day of the Lord. Take some time to rest and give yourself this day. Be selfish today, higher selfish, Why not? We have a number of wonderful segments coming up and transmissions. And if you get a chance, go through facebook.com/UNIFY and go back up through what's been shared already. It's been wonderful. And
Can I make one more request?
Yes, please.
Will you please, for free, it's a gift from unify.org and Here Global, download the Here app and do your little swiping and staring and see if you don't feel a whole lot better, and then share those moments of peace on the world peace map and light up whatever country you're at so we can show all these governments that we want peace.
I have one other little request. If you know somebody who's actually suffering from PTSD, true, like they've come back from the front lines, or that they're maybe been at a school where there was a massive violent act and every day they have to go back and it traumatizes them, or you just know anybody who's experiencing any expression of trauma, I humbly ask you to just go to is it Here Global Relief?
Here Global Relief or hereglobal.org. They're both going to take you to the same place.
Perfect. And go get their phone, get their phone and download that app and then make them play it. Just see what happens. It's one of the biggest gifts you can give someone is peace. And that was the intention with which you created it. Thank you for creating that. Thank you for doing that for people. It's a holy purpose.
Very sweet. Thank you. We love each other, as you can tell, even if there's wobbles and even if there's age difference. We are ageless, timeless, and it's all good. So with that, have a great 10 minutes. We'll see you on the other side.
Yeah. Love you guys. Check you in a bit.